The distress signal had been broadcasting for 72 hours when Admiral Zexhai of the Galactic Defense Coalition finally made the decision that would haunt her dreams. The Veltar colony ship Serenity's Hope was dying, its shields failing, against the relentless assault of the Krithak swarm. 3 billion refugees, the last survivors of their homeworld, huddled in the vessel's failing life support systems while death closed in around them. "Send the transmission," she ordered, her 4 arms trembling as she activated the ancient emergency protocols. "Broadcast on all frequencies, including the old ones." Her communications officer, a young Alteran named Dex, hesitated. "Admiral, are you certain? The restricted channels haven't been used in over 2 centuries. Some say they don't even—" "Send it," Zexhai interrupted. "Send the SOS." The message went out across the galaxy on frequencies that most civilizations had forgotten existed. Ancient emergency channels, relics from the early days of the Galactic Coalition when the rules of engagement were different, when war was still a concept that civilized species understood. Light years away, in the depths of space where no star cast its light, something stirred. The first sign wasn't detected by any sensor array. It was the silence, the way space itself seemed to hold its breath as massive shapes began to move through the void. Ships that had been drifting in the darkness between galaxies for over 300 years suddenly powered up systems that younger species had never seen. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her weathered hands gripping the command chair as displays came online for the first time in centuries. Around her, the skeleton crew of volunteers who had chosen to remain with the ancient dreadnought during humanity's self-imposed exile began their work with practiced efficiency. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Chen from the sensor station, "we're reading multiple coalition signatures under heavy fire. Approximately 47 light-years spinward." Elena nodded grimly. The signal had reached them, had reached all of them. Across the dark expanse, she knew that humanity's other war machines were awakening. The Retribution, the Eternal Vigil, the Iron Price. Ships built in humanity's darker days, when they had been the galaxy's answer to problems that diplomacy couldn't solve. "Time to target?" she asked. 18 minutes at maximum displacement, Captain." "Signal the fleet. We go in hard and fast." Elena's voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of waiting. "It's time to remind the galaxy why they asked us to leave." The Krithak had been the terror of the Outer Rim for decades, a hive-minded species that consumed everything in their path. Their bioships were nearly indestructible, their numbers seemingly endless. The Coalition had thrown everything at them, their finest fleets, their most advanced weapons, their most brilliant tactical minds. All had failed. The Serenity's Hope was dying when reality tore open around it. The first human ship to emerge from hyperspace was a monster, 2 kilometers of angular death bristling with weapons that had been banned by galactic treaty before most current species had achieved spaceflight. The Indomitable didn't announce itself. It simply began killing. Kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speeds tore through Krithak bioships like paper. Plasma cannons that could crack moons reduced their carriers to expanding clouds of superheated gas. And behind the flagship came others, a fleet of ancient Terran dreadnoughts emerging from hyperspace like nightmares made manifest. On the bridge of the Serenity's Hope, Captain Mirathel watched in stunned silence as the human fleet carved through the Krithak swarm with mechanical precision. These weren't the explorers and traders that most species knew humanity as. These were the war makers, the species that had once conquered 1/3 of the galaxy before voluntarily retreating to the edges of known space. "By the void," whispered her tactical officer. "They're not even taking damage. The Krithak weapons aren't penetrating their shields." Elena watched the battle unfold on her tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Krithak were dangerous, but they weren't the first hive mind humanity had faced. They weren't even the worst. The tactics that worked against them had been written in blood across a dozen star systems during humanity's expansion wars. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Chen reported, "the Coalition refugee ship is hailing us." "Put them through." Admiral Zexhi's image appeared on the main screen, her alien features showing a mixture of gratitude and fear. "Human vessels, we thank you for responding to our distress call. The Coalition will not forget this debt." Elena studied the Admiral for a moment before responding. "Tell me, Admiral, when the Coalition voted to exile humanity from civilized space, what reason did they give?" Zexhi's silence stretched long enough to be uncomfortable. Finally, she answered, "They said humanity was too dangerous, too willing to resort to violence. They said you would destroy the peace we had built." "And yet," Elena said quietly, "when peace failed you, when diplomacy couldn't save those 3 billion souls on your ship, who did you call?" The question hung in the void between them. "We called the monsters," Zexhi admitted. Elena smiled, a cold expression that never reached her eyes. "Yes, you did, and monsters we remain." She paused, watching as her fleet finished mopping up the last of the Krithak swarm. "The refugees are safe now, Admiral. We'll escort you to the nearest Coalition world." "And then?" Zexhi asked. "And then we return to the dark, as we always do, until the next time civilized species need monsters to protect them from worse monsters." Elena's image flickered as she prepared to close the channel. "That's what humanity has always been, Admiral. We're the ones who do the dirty work so you can sleep peacefully." As the ancient human war machines formed up around the refugee vessel, Admiral Zexhi wondered if the Coalition had made a mistake 3 centuries ago. Perhaps the galaxy needed its monsters, kept close at hand rather than banished to the darkness between stars. In the depths of space, the Indomitable and her sister ships began their long journey home, carrying their terrible purpose back to the void where they belonged. Until the next SOS came calling.